Now, the aspect I want to talk about today is multiple playable characters in Kingdom Hearts. And I think this is something that's kind of existed throughout Kingdom Hearts and it's been implemented in very different ways in different games. We had Birth by Sleep, which had 3 concurrent storylines. We had Dream Drop Distance, which was also concurrent storylines. We had something like 358 over 2 days where you could play as like pretty much every single organization member, I believe, in the multiplayer mode. You had Kingdom Hearts 3 where you could play as other characters sometimes like Riku, and I believe you play as Roxas at some point. And so they've definitely had multiple playable characters. Pretty much every single time they had multiple playable characters, the aspect of it that is similar in every single game is that it was never in tandem. So whenever you switched to another character, it was because you were either forced to because of the story, or even if you had a choice like Dream Drop Distance, it was because you had to switch to a character in a completely different area of the game. So when you switch from Sora to Riku or Riku to Sora, they were in a different part of the world, and when you switch to them, you were only them. It's not like you could play with the person you were controlling before. And so that worked fine, honestly. Like, I liked it, but I think a more interesting way they can change it for the future of Kingdom Hearts is if they made it more like either Final Fantasy VII Remake or even the East games, if you guys are familiar with that. And the way those games work is that if you have a party of characters like Kingdom Hearts has, like if you have, for example, Sora, Donald, and Goofy, I would like it if live while you're fighting, you can just switch to your party members and fight as them. Now, if this is a mechanic they did, they would probably have to make every single character that's your party member playable. Obviously, that'd be a huge undertaking, but I think that is a mechanic that if they did add, would add a lot to the gameplay. And honestly, that is something that I'd rather have than kind of more gimmicky mechanics that they had in Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, I think they can take away attraction flow and all that business that they add in Kingdom Hearts 3, and if they added something like this, which is just the main combat that they have, but with more characters, I'd personally prefer that more. So for example, if you're using Sora, Donald, and Goofy, you'd be able to fight as Sora, and say you're fighting someone as Sora, you can switch to Donald, start using an armor magic. You can switch to Goofy, start using a shield, switch back to Sora, just on the fly. That's how Final Fantasy VII Remake works. That's how the East games work. And the way at least East makes it interesting is different characters have different strengths. And so like if there's a certain type of enemy that is weak to piercing attacks, you'd switch to the character that's good at piercing attacks, and then you'd attack with that. You can kind of imagine how that would work in Kingdom Hearts, where Sora can be strong with certain type of attacks. Maybe there's an enemy that's weak to magic attacks, so you move to Donald, and he's obviously strong in magic. Maybe there's another enemy that's weak to blunt damage, and maybe Goofy is better at that. So you can kind of imagine how it can get more complex and more interesting in combat, because while I do love playing as Sora, I have no problem with it. This is just something I'm saying would be cool if we had in future games. It would be nice if they kind of added this versatility and make it more interesting. And also another aspect that can be gained from having a mechanic like this, and this is something that I found out you can do in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I don't think I realized you could do this until I was pretty late in the game, but you can straight up just have the other characters like heal you like while you're fighting. So for example, if you're fighting as Sora and you're mid combo and you need to heal, instead of trying to stop the combo, getting away from the enemy and healing yourself, you can, while you're fighting, switch to Donald. While using Donald, throw a heal at Sora, switch back to Sora, and Sora is still fighting the same enemy. So none of the flow is broken. You're still in that combo or whatever situation you were in, and you are now healed. And what I like about that is it's more like realistic in a way, in like the in-world game sense, where instead of like needing to wait for Donald, like you just were able to control him and do it for you. And it would pretty much alleviate the problems you sometimes have where like you kind of want to heal from your party members and you can't do anything about it. And I know Kingdom Hearts games in the past, and I'm sure in Kingdom Hearts 3 too, I don't really remember, but they've had like different options you can do where like, oh, my party members are more aggressive, or they're more focused on healing, or they're more focused on defense, etc., etc. Instead of all that, that's always been kind of confusing to me, that whole system. I never really liked that system. I think it would make more sense where like they had just some kind of default version of that, and then on top of that, if you did really need a heal at a specific moment, you simply just switch to that character and then they can heal you. And I think that would just make it a lot more interesting and a lot more useful in my opinion. And overall, I think if they did kind of build on the system and make it like the way I'm saying, where you kind of get to control any party member you have, I think it would be nice for people who are a fan of other characters. So like, I don't think it would be that insane. Like if there's a certain part of say Kingdom Hearts 4 where the party is Sora, Riku, and like Kairi, for example, if like I like Riku more, I should have the choice to play as Riku for whatever part of the story that he's a party member. I think that would be cool. And like that's kind of how it is with like the other games that I mentioned. Like with the East games, for example, the main character is Adol, and if you want to, you could like never touch him. You could like stay as one of the party members and play the entire game and only change to Adol when you need his strengths. And I think that kind of option is nice. Pretty much anytime you have more options in a game, I think the better it is to a certain extent. But I think this is something where like if you have the moveset of the party members and if they put in the work to make them all playable, I think that'd be cool. The only reason I don't think it will happen is because sure, they have some characters playable like Riku, Kairi, Roxas, etc. But I don't think they have made like characters like Goofy, Donald, etc. playable. I know they have like a long time ago. I think in 358 over 2 days they were playable. But in recent games, I don't think like Goofy and Donald have been playable. I don't think like say if you're in Agrabah, they would have to make Aladdin playable. They would have to make Jack Sparrow playable, Simba playable, whoever. So they would have to pretty much, if they add this, make every single Disney character playable. That is a huge undertaking, but like honestly, the bar for games is going higher, and if they do want to keep on evolving Kingdom Hearts, which they clearly do want to, like Kingdom Hearts 3 was clearly an evolved version of the past games. I just don't think that the path they took to evolve the games was something that I like too much. So if they kind of focus on mechanics more on the base combat and added this way of implementing party members to be playable, I think that'd be more interesting in my opinion. So that's pretty much all I want to talk about in terms of playable party members. If you have any thoughts on this mechanic, if you think it should happen or not happen, let me know down in the comments below.